cosmetics industry, they use exactly the same chemicals they were using 60, 70 years ago. By just marketing their products as natural. And if it gets into our bloodstream, which this research is showing, it can go around, be circulated around the body and damage things like
Sam and Kit Warren-Russell, who really took skincare into their own hands.
Twin brothers from the UK who are taking the skincare industry by storm.
Sam is a nuclear astrophysicist, and Kit is a geophysicist and author.
A Notre Dame grad and his twin brother are looking to revolutionize skin health.
The two launched a 2-year intensive research study.
Two very smart guys who knew all about bad skin at a very early age.
That woman at the end was our mum, and really she's the face which launched 1,000 questions for us.
3, 2, 1, and we're live. That was smooth as. How you doing, boys?
Doing well.
Very good. How you going? What's up? Still struggling with your...
You paused. You had a bean pause for a minute.
Ah, bean pause. You're having some technical difficulties on your side.
Yeah, there's a bit of too much bean juice down the wires. So
are we back on? Are we on the Afghanistan Wi-Fi, Sam, or not? Or?
Yeah, we're on. Yeah, the Afghanify.
Afghanify. There we go. Right, we've got a new structure to this week, haven't we, boys? You guys are starting to release blogs every week, so we're going to go review the latest one that you guys have done. Now, I know nothing about this. I've had a little skim read, so we're going to jump in and see where we go. Okay. So I'm going to hand over to, who do I like the most? I'm going to go Kit, just about. Kit, what was the latest blog? Tell me about it. 5 seconds, elevator pitch, go.
I actually wrote this. So basically, forever chemicals, which stick around forever, have been found to be absorbed through the human skin at really, really alarming rates. So basically, previously scientists thought that these forever chemicals could only get into the body through contaminated air and contaminated food and things like that. And they thought the skin was just not letting any in. But new research has shown that the skin is probably one of the major factors in letting these forever chemicals be absorbed by the body.
Question.
It's pretty alarming because, go.
How do we know, how do we really know this? How do you know when a chemical first was absorbed versus it's still there 10, 15 years later or whatever? How do you know that?
That is a good question, but you can obviously just detect them. But in this study, they tested for something like 17, can't remember the full stats, but they tested for 17 different PFAs, as they call it. I won't say the long word. And they tested them on the skin.
That's cool. Yeah, but my point, Kit, my point was, you can measure it again on, like, let's say in January 2015, but it could have all gone in January 2016, and you come back 5 years later and you measure it again, right? If you didn't measure it in between 2015 and 2020, and you go, it existed, but it could have gone away and come back, kind of thing, right? So for me, that's not a forever chemical. It's just there was a point in time you measured it. It could have gone, or maybe it could have stayed as well, if that makes sense. But
the idea, the word forever chemical, Adam, just means that if you leave them in the environment or wherever they are, they don't break down, whereas other chemicals do break down over time. So these ones take things like, they take millennia to break down, and even then they still don't, some of them still don't break down. So
what's an example? What's an example of a chemical that breaks down, Kit?
That's a very good point. Well, loads of chemicals break down. Obviously when you go in your garden and you put food in the, what's it called? What Mum does? The compost. When you put the compost in the garden, so you put eggs and things and leftover food in the compost, it biodegrades, doesn't it? It breaks down. And the thing about synthetic and man-made chemicals sometimes is that because we've created them ourselves, sometimes nature finds it hard to break these down. And forever chemicals, PFAs, are especially hard to break down.
So are there some synthetic chemicals that do break down, or are most synthetic chemicals ones that last forever? Or
yeah. So that's the thing. It depends on what the chemical is. Different chemicals break down at different rates. So I'm just reading the research here to find an answer to your previous question, Adam.
What was the
previous question?
He said,
How do we know?
how do we know it in the body that
Well,
they've
I assumed
stuck
I
in?
assumed it was a forever chemical inside of your body. But you're saying it's a forever chemical, full stop, right? Regardless if it's in your body or not.
Yeah. Forever
Yeah.
chemicals just
So-
means they stick around wherever they are. But the next question would be how long they stick in your body. But anyway,
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's what I see. What you're saying now, and yeah, that was separate. So before the skin research was done, they were just they're coined forever chemicals because of how hard they are to break down. So then they just stay around without being broken down. So then this skin research was actually the new research, because most people always talk about, oh well, if you ingest something, then it can go into your body, or if you inhale it or whatever. And those are the only ways to get into your body. But now this research is showing that, because you have PFAs in cosmetics and then also like man-made clothes and things, and then so it's showing that it can be absorbed just directly by the skin.
Exactly. And the crucial thing, Adam, is what can you remember about? Actually, no, I'll say it. Basically, before this, again, this is scientists have this view of the skin, that the skin is just basically a sheet over our bones and muscles, and it's not really that important, and it's just like a barrier. And they just thought, oh no, chemicals aren't absorbed through the skin. So now they've found this, which adds to a big body of research showing that the chemicals we are putting on our skin and things like cosmetics, personal care products, could be having a huge effect on our whole body health, especially as these forever chemicals have been linked with things like various types of cancers, immune deficiencies, so like harming the immune system, and a huge amount of other chronic diseases, of which I can't remember at the moment.
Thyroid dysfunction.
No, I'm not sure it has been.
It has, yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, I looked at it yesterday. Having chemicals, man-made chemicals in your body that disrupts the general flow and the natural processes isn't good for the whole body. So even though that we've only linked it at the moment to liver and the thyroid and the immune system and cancer and infertility, high cholesterol, low birth weights, we say, oh, it hasn't been linked to the other things, but it's still, we haven't proved it yet.
I would imagine,
just messing up the body.
I'd imagine your mood, or maybe people with depression or whatever, because when you're talking about thyroid, right, that my understanding is that's to do with, or one part of it anyway, is to do with the metabolism. So maybe if you're not you're not metabolizing food as good as you used to be, maybe, then you suddenly pick up, you start becoming a bit more different in your body, and you start feeling a bit worse for wear kind of thing, and maybe.
I know we were actually talking about our family the other night about because obviously people are eating more now, but still with all these chemicals around, it can mess up your whole body, like I was saying there, in ways that you don't even realize, in non-linear ways. And then so that's going to lead to, like you were saying, your point there about the thyroid and weight gain and everything.
Yeah. So if you're, as you said, Adam, if you're, take for example these chemicals, they could muck up and destroy the gut microbiome. If your gut microbiome's mucked up, then you're obviously not going to digest and metabolize food as well and things like this, and this is going to have an effect on your whole body health. So basically, Adam, to keep it simple, if one part of the body goes unbalanced and one part of whole body health goes unbalanced, it does have a knock-on effect to the rest of the body. That really is it.
So, like, the worry would be that people are putting stuff on their skin or whatever, right? And, they're putting all these potential cosmetics or whatever they're doing, right? And chemicals are entering into the body. But is your point that these chemicals are staying within the body, or that the moment they enter, do they cause harm? Or is it the longer they're in the body, the more harm they cause? Or make sense?
Well, I think that the first point is that we thought that, so we think of, okay, well, the only way that we can get these chemicals in is by ingesting. So if you put it on clothes or in cosmetics, it doesn't matter. It's not going to harm your body at all. So it's fine putting them in clothes and cosmetics. But now this research is showing that it's just as bad as or might be on the same level. I don't know, Kit can back me up, but it's as bad as ingesting it, because you wouldn't eat these chemicals. If you saw that in a food product, you'd call the police. You would report it to the FDA or the MHRA. But the point is that they're being absorbed so that now it's totally rethinking putting chemicals in our environment at all, and in general, just all the chemicals in our environment.
Right, Adam, question for you.
No, but wait.
Go on.
Okay.
You
Okay.
haven't answered my question yet.
No, you-
Yeah, Sam. Understood.
I was gonna say, Sam.
Hold
Go
on.
on. Ask Sam the question again.
Yeah, exactly. So, understood, Sam. So we originally thought it was only entering through food, but now we're saying not only is it food, it's also clothes, cosmetics, whatever that you're using. But my real question is, great. So now there's more ways in which they can enter through the body, but is it simply the moment they enter, they cause the maximum amount of harm there, or is it the longer they stay inside the body, they can cause more amount of harm? And maybe certain these chemicals are really hard for the body to process and remove, and therefore that's why they stay in for longer. But yeah, my real question is, when do they do the damage? And maybe that's hard to say, I don't know, but that's kind of the question I was going for.
Well, I mean, in terms of, I don't know how long they stay in the body, but in terms of, if you think about, well, these forever chemicals, they're named that because they don't stay around in the environment. They do stay around in the environment. If you think, well, we've got a process that tries and digests things and breaks them down, it's not going to break down the forever chemicals inside our body. So it's not going to do that. So it's going to stay around as the original chemical, no matter how long, which I don't know, how long that stays in the body. And if it stays around as that chemical, then it's going to be doing the damage as that chemical for however long it's in the body. And it's probably, I don't know, it might be harder to flush out in that sense.
Okay. If you have those things sticking around in your body for a long time, I mean, again, your body is good at flushing out impurities and things like that. But if you have them sticking around in the body, it's never going to be good, is it? That's a simple answer.
Yeah, but it'd be good to know how long it stays around.
But even if it's absorbed into the body just for a very short time, Adam, it's still really bad. So the point is about your skin and your immune system is trying to stop things like this getting into our body. And if it gets into our bloodstream, which this research is showing, it can go around, be circulated around the body and damage things like the brain, the lungs, and the heart, which obviously, and other organs, which obviously you don't want. But new research, which we have been pioneering as well and going off the back of, is showing that if you let these chemicals into the bloodstream, they can massively affect or negatively affect things like your heart and your brain and lungs.
Yeah, but the extra point to that is, because it's a good one, it's not like you very rarely use PFAs. It's not like it's every so often you come into contact with them. They're everywhere in our environment, in cosmetics, in synthetic clothing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That you're using and getting into contact with them every day. So the main point it comes back to the skin absorption.
Yeah,
is we thought if you were drinking it every day, then you would go, well, that's terrible. But you say, oh no, it's on the skin, so it's not entering the body. But this research, well, we've been saying it, but this research now shows that getting into contact with it every day is going to be terrible, because it's, even if they do get flushed out, it's going to keep absorbing them every single day.
So you're keeping on renewing that lovely groundswell of chemicals in your body every day by slathering these cosmetics on your skin and stuff like that. And so that shows you again, like there's more evidence showing that the cosmetics we're using every single day on our skin could be having like a really bad long-term effect on our overall health. So if that's the PFAs, then, and it's not like the skin only lets PFAs get absorbed. So there's a whole host of other chemicals that we don't even know the effects that they have on the body themselves and what they do. They're just all being absorbed at the same time too. So you're encased in this sea of chemicals every day. We don't know the effects. Now we know that they're absorbed.
You almost describe the number of synthetic man-made chemicals as almost like unknown as to how many have been created or whatever, and therefore like you guys know of some of the bad offenders, right? But to really understand all the possible chemicals, like you're saying, Sam, there might be some chemicals, whatever, right? For some reason, the body's fine with them, but there might be some that, and I don't know, are companies creating new ones frequently, or are these all chemicals that were designed maybe fairly?
Well, what often happens is the skincare industry or the cosmetics industry, they use exactly the same chemicals they were using 60, 70 years ago. They're just marketing their products as natural. So what we're doing is we're not really getting any new chemicals, but just the old ones, which were found to be very damaging for the body, but just with a couple of natural ones thrown in. And I would say more alarming also is that, what's wrong?
No, I was thinking about that point.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, that's just quite a common point. That's common knowledge. But now I've lost my train of thought.
You said even more alarming.
Oh, yeah, there was something.
Even more alarming.
Oh, yeah, even more alarming. There was a study by the EWG in America, and they found that something like there was an average of, I can't remember the amount, maybe 12 or 14 undisclosed chemicals in every cosmetics product they sampled. So far apart from the chemicals that were actually listed on the back, which are harmful enough,
Didn't know that.
there's a huge amount more which have been undisclosed and will be also going into your body unknowingly as well.
I didn't know that.
So this is why the lack of regulation in things like natural and organic in the cosmetics industry is causing a huge amount of harm.
Who's the EWG?
Environmental Working Group in America. They do a lot on things like telling you which ingredients in cosmetics are safe, so chemicals which are safe and then harmful to use as well. But then even some of the ones which they deem as safe, because there have been no science studies on it, could be harmful. We just don't know.
Do you trust them as a regulatory body, like from your own personal perspective?
Well, at least they're going towards the right direction. I wouldn't say, again, there's flaws in the system because there's huge amounts of chemicals out there, and there's a few problems with science studies. You can't be testing every single one. And then also what you have to do sometimes is test each ingredient in combination with others to see their effect in combination with others and on their own as well. Because something on its own might not be that harmful, but then in combination with others, it might be. And then also, as we said, just for the pure fact of being a synthetic chemical, which our body sees as alien, it could actually upset the body in ways which isn't immediately obvious, say in a science study and things like that, in the long term.